All right, so Jordan Cornette, former Notre Dame basketball player on the ACC Network now. Obviously, great stuff. Had the pleasure of meeting you down in New Orleans. I'll say this up front, and now I guess I'm dipping into another resource. Brey is my white whale. White whale in terms of interviews. I've texted with him a couple of times. I got that close. Like, I've been close. So maybe this will be another olive branch if he sees this to finally get him. But had you jump on for like 10, 15 minutes, Mike Brey stepping down, which is weird because I've seen a lot of now like tributes to him. You know, you see a lot of these graphics. He's still there, which is weird with a talented team. I know they're not playing well, but like it's weird to see that he was going. What kind of impact did he have on you as a coach? You know, and what kind of stands out to him as a guy?
Well, Rico, a couple of things. For one, fuck you, bro. I mean, that's why you have me on this thing. You're just trying to get the Brey. I mean, that's what's going on here. No, Brey's the best, man. And you're just one of a long line of people. And I said this in this little stand-up monologue thing I did on one of our shows this week. Anytime you tell somebody you played basketball at Notre Dame, that's literally the first thing people say. Your coach is the best. I love him. I can't wait to talk to him. It's just who he is. I mean, he is authentically that person. I mean, he's the guy. You joke, he's one of us. Like, he's a guy you want to sit at the bar, have a pop with. He's a great storyteller. He always leaves a room with a joke. He's disarming. Like, he's a guy, when you talk to him, he can move through any crowd. He can move through a crowd full of women, crowd full of men, crowd full of older people, younger people, white, black. It's just his personality vibes with everybody. So when you played for him, you know, there was an authoritative element to him, but the balance, the blend of who he was also a guy that was your buddy, and he knew which switch to turn on and when, and that's why he got the best out of guys. So Brey was just, the best skill he had, Rico, was he just had a pulse for people, and he knew what buttons to press given the personality on a team, and he knew how to manage teams, and he'd have the ability to develop guys and teams over years. So by the time they got older, teams were really good.
Yeah, you know, and that's kind of the reason too. Like, I liked him. So when you look at this, I think college basketball coaches' personalities, I don't think you would recognize them unless you really talk to them. And I don't think they have a lot of opportunity to showcase those personalities. You look at the way the game's covered. The 8 o'clock game that used to be primetime was moved to 6 o'clock for the NBA. College Game Day is probably only doing, 4 to 5 live shows after the NFL. Like, the game has gotten smaller, and these personalities you don't know about. I always thought Brey had a personality, and that's what kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, and you need that at a place like Notre Dame, right? Because you got to have a personality to draw attention to your program. It's a football school. I mean, look at the hoodie you got on. I mean, it's a gold helmet. That's what it's. Yep. That's what the school is identified. That's what they identify with. And so for him, Coach knew he had to be egoless, not get caught up in the arms race with Notre Dame football because you'll lose it, and just say, how can I turn what is deemed a disadvantage into an advantage? How can I make that a good thing for Notre Dame? And his sense of humor drew in the media. Guys like when I was playing, Bill Raftery, Sean McDonough, Jay Billis were on that big Monday crew covering games. And they loved to hang around and be around our team because Brey had this vibe that was infectious. And we became a media darling. We'd become a team if we were on a bubble. People would stump for because they loved Brey so much and they loved that program so much. And that's kind of who he was, man. He made it fun to be a Notre Dame basketball player at a place where football was king.
When you look at that job, is it one? I've always said I think it's one of the toughest, if not the toughest, in the country. With everything going, I don't want to say against it, but the hurdles you have to overcome. It's, you obviously got football in your shadow, no matter what. Like, you can make it to the Final Four, and they'll be like, yeah, but the football team won the Citrus Bowl. I truly think you being there know that. Like, that's just how it goes. Like, same with Alabama, same with Texas to a degree. You know, like a lot of these schools, that's how it goes. The academics, you're not getting a lot of breaks in terms of academic standards.
The front row of class. I mean, not only do you have to be a class, when I was there, we had to be front row, or it was getting back to coach that not only were you not a class, but you weren't sitting up front. Yeah.
There's no, the term papers weren't Googled. They were written on a plane on a road game. I can confirm that through guys, you know, I've talked to. And then obviously you're in Indiana, in a basketball state. Like, so kids, you know, on the farm growing up, like, they're dreaming of the red and white striped pants. So all those things put together, where do you put this in terms of like one of the toughest jobs in the country?
Rico, you ever been to South Bend?
I have not. My brothers went. I was playing college football, so but I got to go.
Yeah, and I asked because I figured maybe you had, because a mutual friend we share, a guy who you grew up with who's like a brother to you, and Kyle McElharney was a star there and one of the all-time great dudes. I thought maybe you got down there. I asked that because you ain't missing much, man. And that's no disrespect to my people down in South Bend in the 574. It's just, it's not a destination.
Right.
At least for basketball, it's not the sexiest place. I mean, it snows 2 weeks into the start of school, and it snows until you leave for the summer. I mean, that's what you're looking at there. So in this world of NIL and what can a school do for a kid at the utmost level now in terms of recruiting, that's a challenge. Also, it's a challenge because you're following a guy that's raised the standard at Notre Dame and Coach Mike Brey. Look, when Coach came in and during his time, he'd always joke, kind of in what you said, but taking it a step further, you have a big win, you're still not Notre Dame football. But when you're 1-7 like they are right now, you're still not Notre Dame football. So at least the shift goes to that. So you're under the radar. And like Coach came in and it was like, all you got to do is get to the tournament occasionally. Don't embarrass yourselves on the court. I mean, that's how bad they were for the decade leading up to when he got there.
Yeah.
He raised the standard, man. And now the expectation is, we'll at the very least get to the tournament. And we expect you to at least win a game and maybe go on a run. That's where he's taken it to, from a laughingstock program to you better be a player in the conference because he's won an ACC championship now. You better get to the tournament because majority of the years he got there. And you better start winning games because he took them to 2 Elite Eights and a few Sweet 16. So now whoever comes in has to replicate that secret sauce in what Coach presented. And that's not easy to do at the place for all the things that you had mentioned there. But that being said, because Brey had that success, because Brey kind of became this star of sorts with his personality there, it's become a sexy job where there's a few candidates in that group that can go there and feel like they can win and take it maybe another step.
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room. We'll get to that. But I gotta give my guy some shine. I mean, 23 years, 13 tournaments, probably could have made it in the COVID year, make it 23, 14, won 2 Elite Eights, won the ACC, was in the Big East when the Big East was like Rock'em Sock'em Robots, was unbelievable, was getting through that tournament. Was there any more he could have done? Like I don't want to, like, obviously he was a bounce away from a super team in Kentucky to getting to the Final Four. Was there any more he really could have done? And I know that's hard to say when he didn't get to a Final Four, but like you said, it was an afterthought anyway. The program it's always going to be kind of behind it in football, and where it came from, I think he really raised the standard. And that's kind of the question I walk away with. What else could he have done for this program in 23 years?
Rico, it'd be greedy to say he could have done more, right? I mean, the dude left as the winningest coach. The dude took the standard to another level. And look, there was a standard when Digger Phelps was there. I mean, let's be very clear. He was a legend.
Yeah.
When there was like 4 and 5 programs that mattered, Digger made Notre Dame one of those programs. But that was wholly gone for a decade. And no insult to Coach McLeod, but I mean, they were in the gutter, the program. And so Coach brought all that back. I mean, I think that the Final Four would have been great. Like, to get Coach to that Final Four. You mentioned they had that Kentucky team on the ropes. If they could have closed that game, the statue would have been built. But I got to be honest with you. How do you not build a statue of Coach Brey on campus there? How do you not put a statue of him in front of, the Purcell Pavilion right there? Because he's Notre Dame basketball. So I guess to answer your question, a Final Four would have been great. It doesn't change how I look at him. No. I mean, the guy's a legend. And for those who know hoops like you do and those listening, he's a heavyweight. He's one of those coaches that should be remembered in this era. This era of coaches is one of the greats.
Yeah. I mean, even too, like, I'm sure there's people, we're dating ourselves, but when the Big East was the Big East, which is what I obviously grew up on, New York and all those connections, they were automatic at home. They had one of the longest win streaks in the nation at home. Automatic.
We didn't lose. My sophomore year would have been 2003. We beat 3 top 5 teams in a week. I don't think any college team had ever done that in that point. Marquette, Texas, and Maryland were all top 5 teams. D. Wade and that group went to the Final Four. Texas also, I think, went to the Final Four that year. We beat 2 Final Four teams in a week. Capped it off with beating D. Wade and them on Big Monday at home. We didn't lose a home game that year. But that ties back, because he did that a few different years. That ties back to Coach. Coach's job description is a lot different than at a lot of schools. I mean, you coach at a P5 program that's a factor, that's a player, at one point we were top 5 a bunch of different times. Those programs don't have to walk around the other dorms on campus, get up on tables at lunch in the cafeteria on campus and say, Come watch us play. We got a really good brand of basketball. Coach was so egoless and understood that he needed to go out and do that, or else that place might be empty. He went out there and brought fans literally by going out there and stomping and banging on doors saying, come watch us. The product was already good, Rico. He yet still took it a step further and said, I'm going to try and bring people in to watch these games. Coach was all in for 23 years. This year, he started to step away because it was time, but that guy went above and beyond the job description, and he was cool as hell doing it the whole time.
Yeah. No, there's not a lot of guys who would take the humble, like, oh, I'm a D1 coach. You could see, I'm sure in your interactions, they big time you. They do what, like, guys have personalities that they think are all of a sudden.
That's why I can't believe you ain't got him. All you got to do is ask. I'll literally text him.
He's a live text him.
He's on here. But
he's just a little.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like, the personality, that says a lot about him. But yeah, he's just a little elusive. And now, it's his last season. I'll get him. I'll eventually get him.
I'm gonna text him for you, bro. I mean, it's so not passive in terms of your aggression and how you're trying to make it happen. It's just aggressive. I'll do it. I'll get him on with you. That's no problem.
Yeah, it's all good. I've directly texted him. That's not why I had him on. I want you to talk about the job.
I actually think, and I was talking to Big Cat about this. I actually think Coach Brey might be a Ryder. He might be a Ryder.
All right.
You might be able to get him on, no problem. I'm a Ryder. I'm a Ryder now.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I like that.
I'm on here. That
Definitely.
makes one coach is one too.
The other thing too, like you look historically, you talk about that, the success of Notre Dame and what he's done. First off, he's went through 2 leagues where he was a factor. They were not just, all right, we're going to Notre Dame, like check that as a win. Big East, ACC. They're in the ACC for Christ's sakes, which is like crazy. Look at the 23-year stretch of comparable schools. Now he's taken Notre Dame to be comparable to basketball schools. Some years other than not, but the schools where academics are first are, to me, maybe there's a few that I left out, but Georgetown, Northwestern, and Stanford. You remember any teams in the last 23 years, other than obviously the Georgetown one Final Four? Those teams have struggled for a while. I think he's risen above his competition of those type of schools.
He has no question. And when he came to Notre Dame, he brought that East Coast vibe. I mean, Coach is a DMV dude. He coached at Duke, down in, I guess you call that the Carolinas, went up to Delaware, was a legend in his own right at Delaware before he came over to Notre Dame. And I think he said this in that announcement of his retirement in that presser, but he said it felt like an East Coast gig in South Bend at Notre Dame because we were in a Big East. We were playing all the teams in the area where I knew I could recruit. And that's a big element to Coach's success is he dominated the Eastern Seaboard and some of the talent that he brought in there over his time. I mean, guys like Jaron Grant down in the DMV area, Eric Atkins, but then to go get guys like Pat Connaughton up in the Boston area, Terren Francis up in the Boston area. He also won in his backyard there in South Bend. They were lucky enough to cultivate a lot of talent over the last few years there. A guy like Blake Wesley, a guy like Demetrius Jackson.
You got a Zeller from Indiana too, right?
Got Mr. Basketball in Zeller. He secured a guy in Chris Thomas who was in my class who was Mr. Basketball, committed to Doherty, but we reopened our recruiting. He made sure to keep Chris Thomas, kept guys like Matty Carroll and Ryan Humphrey there. And his recruiting had to shift when he got to the ACC to a degree because it wasn't necessarily that same Big East footprint, but yet he still got that talent. Now, the thing in the Big East where Coach Brey really won was his offense was ahead of its time. And there were NBA guys coming in to watch our practices because they liked his 5-out, spread them out ideals. That wasn't this mainstay that you see everywhere now. It was new back then. And we were tripping people up left and right. We were playing teams way more talented than us. UConn won a national championship. Syracuse won a national championship during our time. And I believe we had beat Syracuse once. I know we had beaten UConn a couple times because guys didn't know how to guard 5-out. And the way we had perpetual movement and the way we'd always lead in assists, be up there in the nation in assists, and also be up in the nation and taking care of the basketball, least amount of turnovers. There's something to be said for his philosophy. And our practices, we became a well-oiled machine. By the time you got to this point in the season, late January, entering February, practice for 40 minutes. And we'd run 5-on-5 on half court, and then we'd just go out and play because it had been instilled in us over time the right way to play. He took that into the ACC. This dude went and won an ACC title at Notre Dame, man. That's crazy.
No, that I think is, yeah.
Beat Carolina on the way to doing it, Rico. Like, I'd argue the Elite Eights are big, that 2015 ACC title has to be the most impressive achievement.
Crowning achievement. Yeah, without a doubt. And you talk about too, like just being able to go for 40 minutes. I've always heard he's the most positive guy in the world. Whether you think you're a 40-point scorer, he will convince you you're a 40-point scorer. What was going on in that positivity, or what was the story through your time where he got a guy and you were like, man, like even the kid didn't believe it, but he transitioned that.
I'm laughing because that's bullshit, bro. He was positive to a point. Yeah. He could talk more shit. And I think that was like what made him so cool too. Like, this is the stuff. If I have my teammates on here, they'd be like, yes, Cornette, tell them about that. Why Coach Brey is so cool is because he could give it back to you like he was, again, one of us. Like, Rico, you pop off to one of your boys from Staten Island, they're giving it right back to you. Yeah. That's who Coach was. We had a guy on our team, for the sake of not embarrassing him, let's call him Mike. Okay. Mike was a guy as a freshman, really talented player, but couldn't crack the rotation yet. Very loud guy, Mike was. And this is a made-up name for the guy. But we're down by like 15 against a team we shouldn't have been losing to at the half. And Mike, Coach would always take his time before he'd come in at halftime. He'd let the guys police themselves, take a minute to digest what happened in the first 20 minutes. He'd come in, talk to us. Boom, we go back out for the second half. So we're in the locker room. We're down 15 to some bum team we shouldn't have been losing to. And Mike, who hadn't cracked the rotation, talented guy, but hadn't figured it out yet, was a loud dude. Was like, come on, guys. Like, gave this impassioned speech about how we needed to turn it around. Coach walked in. Mike, sit your stupid ass down. You're not even good enough to be fucking playing. What are you going to tell these guys to get them hyped up? And everybody wanted to laugh, but we knew we shouldn't laugh in that moment. And we ultimately ended up laughing. It disarmed us, got us out of being tight. Coach then dug into us a little bit, challenged us. But Mike became the scapegoat in that moment with the shit talking. But it disarmed us, got us ready to get back to playing. We went and won the game. Coach knew how to do that stuff better than anybody, better than any of the legendary coaches that you hear stories about. He could do it as a dude to the guys to make them feel like, yeah, it's just a game. Well, we're ready for this. Let's go out there and do it. Why are we tight? They called him the loosest coach in America because he was really loose, Rico. And it's because the dude was just so damn cool. That's the thing that sticks with me most about his coaching philosophy. So it was positive in a way, but not in the way of, all right, buddy, go out there. You can do it. It was a way to tap into guys that was different, but really resonated with us.
For sure. So then obviously the next thing, we'll kind of end on this. It's a big time job, like you talked about. It's an ACC job. It's a program that's been good now for a while. They got a 4-star. They're supposed to get a 4-star next year if they can keep that kid recruited. A lot of dark horses come out in these type of things. I didn't think Juwan Howard was going to be at Michigan. Like, a lot of these names kind of come out. Who's in the front running? Who do you expect to be a wild card? And who would you call to at least make an offer in terms of the job?
If I were, and I want to be very clear, I have no basis for this. I have conversations with important people that will happen in the next 48 hours. They haven't happened yet. This is purely speculative on my front. If I was role-playing here and I was Jack Swarbrick, who is doing the right thing by being in touch with Coach about this. Coach is the winningest coach. He's been in for 23 years. He has a right to have his say. Knowing that, I believe it's going to be, or I believe it should be a Notre Dame person to have the first crack in terms of that list of people. It should be somebody from his tree. That being said, there's 3 guys that really stick out to me.
Inglesby.
Chris Quinn at Miami. He's the associate head right there with Spo. Spo is one of the most respected minds in all of the NBA. Chris Quinn is a Pat Riley made man. I don't think there's anything more important to be in all of sport than a Pat Riley made guy with that Heat culture. And this is in no specific order, but Chris Quinn. Martin Ingleby's done a great job getting Delaware to the tournament. He is a Brey disciple. He is a splitting image of Brey in a lot of ways in terms of how he approaches it on the court. Not as big a personality as Coach, but a personality and fully capable.
Even the jump is identical. Delaware to
exactly. That's why he got Delaware, because they saw Brey in him. Brey is a legend at Delaware. He's done the right things at Delaware, enough to earn a look. Home run, Hail Mary, Monty Williams. If he's tired of the NBA, there's nobody more respected in all of sport than Monty Williams. He can obviously coach, and Notre Dame means a great deal to him. Those are the 3 Notre Dame people that I would want to have the first look in no specific order. After that, outside of the family, there's a bunch of names you could look at. Micah Shrewsbury at Penn State. I love Pat Kelsey. I love what Pat Kelsey is doing.
Yeah, he's nuts.
Grew up in the same town as me, Cincinnati, Ohio. Know his brother Walt, know his sister Mary, know the family very well. A great deal of respect for that family. It's a first family of basketball in Cincinnati. Old man played at Xavier. They're just good people.
I say nuts too. Like he just loves the game.
No, he's nuts.
He's got his kids running plays. Yeah.
Pat will tell you he's nuts. He's maniacal about it. He's into it like that. He's nuts about the sport. Pat has what it takes to rejuvenate a fan base. He do the same stuff, walk around, get everybody hyped up. You hear him talk about our city in Charleston, the 6. They've got the nation's longest win streak. He's a Midwest guy. He's got a Catholic background. I think that appeals to Notre Dame. He makes a lot of sense. If we went outside the family, Shrewsbury, I don't know how happy Holtman is at Ohio State. They'd be dumb to let go of him. But if Holtman happened to float around, but I love Pat Kelsey too. So there's a wealth of options because of what Coach has done for the last 23 years.
Yeah.
If he hadn't done that, Rico, nobody would want the job.
No.
But the facilities are great now. The fans will come back. It's Notre Dame. There's no other show in town. So there's an interest and you get that Notre Dame degree. There's a lot of reasons to like it.
For sure. I think, like you said, I think it makes sense to kind of keep it in the family. He'll have the say, I don't think it's healthy to have autonomy like Krzyzewski did. And that's not knocking Shire or like when Boeheim, which is crazy that it was 10 years ago when Boeheim said, I'm retiring and I want to know who's going to pick it. And he just stuck around. Like, in a sense, you are leaving the program, but I do think it's healthy if you've been successful, you get some of an input. The question I have, if you were handicapping it, what percentage do you put it at the family getting it or one of the wild cards or outsiders? 70%, 30%?
You know what? It's going to sound like a cop-out, 50-50. And the only reason I say that is because Rico, is those other guys got great things going. I mean, the 3 guys I mentioned in the family have really good situations. Martin may not want to follow Coach Brey. Again, I haven't talked to Moose Inglesby at Delaware. He may not want to take that step. I would think he'd be crazy not to. Chris Quinn may have other NBA jobs. Monty Williams is in the NBA. So you don't know. I'll say this very, very, being very honest. I want it to be inside the family because I want an extension of Coach. I look at what Hubert Davis has done replacing Roy Williams. That's gone pretty well. Coach Davis has done a pretty good job. They went to the chip. They're going to turn this thing around here in the second half. They'll be right back in the thick of things. Who would you want? Who would you want for the job?
Well, I get laughed at too because my first call would be Brad Stevens.
Come on.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying he's an Indiana guy.
That's why people hate Notre Dame fans, because if we thought we could go get Brad, I know Brad well. I'll tell you to you like this, I ain't breaking any news. Brad ain't interested.
I'm learning. I'm very much learning that, it's too good to be true there.
Give me a real answer. Give me a real answer, because Brad ain't on the team.
I'll give you one more fake one, because he, according to me, not anyone else, but he is in the running for Kentucky and Texas. Jared Grasso at Bryant. I got to put his name in the mix.
Yeah. Isn't he a Staten Island? He's a Long Island guy, isn't he?
He's the Long Island guy. Yeah, I get 10% of his next deal. So I'm just putting his name. Kentucky, Texas, Notre Dame. Jared Grasso on the list. To be honest with you, I think it's a young man's game, and it's not knocking Quinn, and I do like the player aspect. I would go for a guy like Kelsey, because when you get there, I think Kelsey might have Brey's attitude of, I want to retire here. Brey forever said, like, I'm sure other schools could have looked at him, made an offer, like Brey was like, I ain't leaving. I wonder if Kelsey has that same type of attitude, like you talked about.
He might already have that at Charleston.
Yeah,
that
but
guy's so happy there. Like, look, again, haven't talked to him, don't know. I would love it. Let me tell you this. If it's not one of those Notre Dame guys, because I really want it to be, if it's not, be over the moon if it was Pat Kelsey. I'd love for Pat Kelsey to be the head coach of Notre Dame if those other 3 guys within the family didn't work out. I think the world of that guy.
I think some wild cards are going to play into it. I know there's some people with ties way back in the day. Their name will float around. You've seen a ton of lists. So it's going to be interesting. But it was great to reminisce, obviously, about, your days with Brey. I still think he's great. And honestly, here, we'll go out on this. Here's to them getting hot. And let's make a run for the ACC and make the fucking tournament. Because Brey, he's got to let him just make the tournament.
I mean, let me tell you,
back to back to end it.
He will crack a bottle on the sidelines if he gets there. He will not wait to drink after in the locker room. If that happens, what a story that would be. And think about the sound bites he would have. I mean, that's the thing. The dude has a feel for how to bring the media in and give them what they need. Dude drives content. If that happened, it'd be incredible.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, rest assured this, Rico, because I know you love him too, he's going to be back in the limelight in some capacity. I don't know if it happens immediately next year. Again, haven't had a chance to talk to him, talking to him later this week. Georgetown job may become available. Why? That's my little guy Joey back there. He's
all right. He hasn't hit the growth spurt like Dad yet. He's
coming. I just think coach, hey, maybe Georgetown's on the table if it becomes available. TV's going to be around. And coach is not just going to fade to black.
No,
it's just not how it's going to be with him. So I'm excited for whatever happens.
You know what I think is perfect for him? And college basketball hasn't really gone to this yet. A Manning cast. They did it the other night with Dykes and Billis. Like, all right, we got no play-by-play, but you got two of the sharpest minds. You're going to enjoy watching the game with two guys talking. I think it's built for Brey. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, Irish get hot. Obviously, check out your stuff, ACC Network. I'll be in touch. And maybe we'll crack a bottle when they make the tournament together.
I love it, man. You're gonna be here pretty soon too, man. I'm gonna make that happen, Rico.
All right, yeah. That's not. I had you on to talk about Notre Dame, but I'm just extending my my olive branches where I can.
No doubt, man. Hey, I enjoy listening to you, man. I'm glad we become friends, bro, and I'm happy to be on here.
Definitely appreciate it. Take it easy. All right.
Yeah, bro.